And hello, everyone. Welcome to the WARTburg Infusion Entertainment Review. It's WAFER number 27. I'm one of your hosts, Thomas, aka MrWartburg. Alongside me, as always, the man who just waved if you were watching on YouTube or Twitch is Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everybody, with my pageant wave.
Yeah, he's doing the Queen wave. Yeah, it's all about the cup in the hand, keeping everything stable and
I'm from the South, man. This is the pageant wave.
yeah, it's like the parade wave, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like I said, it's number 27. We are recording this on October 8th. So as of today was the finale of Ted Lasso season 2. As also the weekend where James Bond: No Time to Die, the end of the Daniel Craig era film, is now out, as well as What If season 1 is now in the books over on Disney Plus. We're gonna get Fusion's thoughts on that. Plus, I saw No Time to Die, and then we're gonna co-take some thoughts on Ted Lasso season 2. So Fusion, it's been a couple of weeks between recordings. So what have you been up to during that time frame?
Playing a little Red Dead Online, a little role play, doing that. Let's see here. Went back and rewatched. I started rewatching Luke Cage. I just felt like for some reason I was like, you know what? I feel like watching Luke Cage, and so I've been doing that. Like you said, watched Why the Last Man, Ted Lasso, What If, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I tweeted about this. Man, December is just loaded with content. It's going to be ridiculous what's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen in December. I mean, when you really think about it, all the shows and movies that are coming out. I mean, and it caps off on New Year's Eve with Cobra Kai season 4.
Yeah,
So, like, it's like, hey, I'm going to watch the week before, get ready for Christmas. I forget which one was it. Is it Matrix Revolutions that comes out on the 22nd? I
yeah.
can't remember.
Resurrections is the 22nd. Witcher is the 10th.
Resurrection.
There's
Yep.
another thing on the 10th.
Yep.
There's Spider
Hawkeye
Man.
is
There's
Spider-Man
Hawkeye
on the
after
17th.
Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
Like Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's is stuffed with content.
Yep. It's
Plus,
just
The
ridiculous.
Expanse comes out December 10th. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, I saw you tweeted that out. I didn't know it was going to come out this soon. I thought it was
I
going to be
don't.
probably
Well,
early 22.
I knew we were gonna get a trailer today. I didn't
Okay.
know where they were in production. Um, and like this is technically the final season, but it sounds like they're trying to get a movie deal for the later books, which are just going to be finished this year.
Hmm.
Sounds like they want let the cast go do other things and just do a 2 hour movie instead, which is more than a fine way to wrap up a show that's had 6 seasons of runway.
Sure.
I mean, Stargate actually did something pretty similar as a sci-fi project, and I actually really liked the Stargate movies. They're pretty good. Wish they'd have got the third one though. Would have been dope.
Oh, I forget because I'm a big Sopranos fan. The Many Saints of Newark came out last week on Friday as well. So yeah, man, this is like, and I bring this up quite a bit as a gamer. Like, why do video games wait till the fall to come out? Because you have sports that kicks off, you have the movies and TV shows, like the fall season of TV shows that come out normally like on network, right? And it's a little different world now, right, with streaming. But like, and also the other thing I caught this week was the reboot of CSI Las Vegas, which I grew, in the early 2000s. I was a huge CSI fan because we didn't have streaming back then. We had network TV, and I really liked the science fiction slash science element of CSI Las Vegas. But that came back. So there's just like like just an overload of content right now, man.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's a
just
real
crazy.
problem.
And then December, like November we have the Eternals, and it's like okay, we're gonna ramp you up, and then December's like balls to the wall month of just content nonstop. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been busy with what's on my plate now. But then, like I said, I try to go back and watch something different, old school, different. And I went and sat down and started watching season one of Luke Cage.
Nice.
Just the hell of it. Yeah.
For me, one of my older things that I actually watched was I was tooling around between games on last Saturday for college football. I don't know if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. Wearing an Iowa shirt because I'm a Hawkeye fan. Number 3 team in the nation, facing
Number
off against
three.
Penn State this weekend. It's gonna be a great time. I got 6 pounds of wings to cook tomorrow. Gonna
Ooh,
be
buddy.
awesome. Well, I'm not eating
Okay,
them all, but I'm trying a new recipe. I'm trying a honey barbecue recipe I've never done before, so gonna see how they go. And my mom's gonna eat those probably.
I'm gonna
Um,
have to ship you off 2 bottles of Texas style barbecue sauce from Stubbs. Not so great barbecue at that restaurant, but their sauces are unbelievable. And actually, Franklin Barbecue does have a sauce they sell in store now as well.
nice.
Both are really, really good. So I'll have to ship you off some Texas sauce, man, so you can try some
I'm
wings.
game. I'm game to
All right.
try them.
All right.
But while I was watching games, I was like, oh, TNT is playing the Replacements. Well, I can't not watch the Replacements. I'm in a football mood, and the Replacements still holds up as one of my top 5 sports movies. We did a
Ooh,
sports movies podcast. What was that? A couple months ago now with Nick
yeah.
Schwartz,
Yep.
which was a great time. You should definitely go check that out. But the Replacements is just so fucking fun, man. Like the scene with the bar brawl, and John Favreau comes in wearing a sombrero, drinking tequila, right? Like
Mhm.
so good. Like he plays such a crazy psychotic person in that movie. It's incredible. Like the whole
And what's
supporting
his,
cast.
he's supposed to be like a SWAT officer,
Yeah,
right?
he's
That's
a
what
SWAT
his
officer who
SWAT,
played
yeah,
football at Michigan, right? Like
yeah,
just a crazy middle linebacker, just insane dude. And this was, of course, before he started really directing anything. And man, he's just so much fun in that movie. The whole cast is great. Like
yeah.
I want to go back and get there's a GIF of it of where it's Orlando Washington
Orlando Jones.
Jones
Orlando Jones. Yeah.
Jones who's sitting at the table between the convict and the cop, and he's just like, "Look, butt cake," and then he runs away. I've always wanted to get a high quality GIF of that. I might actually have to go do it. Because it's always been it's just something that sticks in my brain, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is a solid joke, and of course, it's Keanu Reeves and Shane Falco, one of the greatest fictional sports players ever. Yeah, love that. I love that movie. Other stuff, of course, James Bond: No Time to Die, Doom Patrol, Titans, Why the Last Man. Played a fuckload of Hades. I'm up to 60 hours already in 2 weeks, and this weekend we're gonna play some Back for Blood.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna get that co-op like zombie
Mhm.
slash not zombie, action on. It's gonna be a great time. That's gonna be here on Twitch. And speaking of Twitch, if you're watching or listening to this after the fact, we are over at twitch.tv/slash MrWartburg. That's MrWartburg. You can watch live when we record these episodes every other week. Plus, if we have any one-off content or my individual gaming streams as well. So, with all that in the books, Fusion, it's time to get to Ted Lasso Season 2. Let's start with what people are going to want to be here for, what I'm making the thumbnail of. And that's
All
one of the
right.
greatest shows on TV. So, at least that's what we said after Season 1, it being one of the greatest shows on TV. For you, is that still the case post Season 2? Right out of the gate. Let's
Um,
go big picture.
big picture. I'm gonna say, as much as I liked many episodes in season two, overall the storyline, I did not like the setup. I did not like the setup, and I mentioned this if you go back a few episodes. I complained about the foreshadowing they did with Keeley and Roy, and of course the stuff with Nate, right? But we both agreed that in order for them, essentially, this is a three-season show where the big payoff in season three is to win the whole damn thing, right? Major League style, right? Um, well, they needed a villain, and we kind of felt that Rupert was going to play a role in that. But then we were also knowing that, hey, maybe Nate's going to be that kind of that obstacle in season three. Well, we were right about that. We were right about that. The Keeley Roy stuff was a little odd because you set it wasn't really dramatic yo-yoing. It was just kind of real passive yo-yoing about, do they love each other? Are they going to be together or not? And as much as I complained about having this show Americanized, like drama wise, they did a good job of preventing that until we get to season two. The panic anxiety stuff with Lasso, I really didn't find it had a place in this season, if that makes sense. I thought,
That is one of my big bullet points, is that exact point, but I think for a slightly different reason.
okay, okay. What I felt was it did so it let me clarify. Mental health is a big issue in this country, and I appreciate the fact that they try to address it both in a serious way and of course in the comedic sense because it is a comedy. But for me, I think the biggest problem was they basically brought down the lead character's momentum in the show. And it became about everyone else, which is fine because there's a great ensemble here, great cast, great actors, great writing. But I did think that they kind of dropped the ball a bit on Ted, because is there a big payoff in season three? Possibly, but overall, I think it was a good season. Wasn't as good as season one. I thought season one was phenomenal on so many levels. There were those. I think we talked about this last episode. Those starts and stops. Those two extra episodes, the Christmas and then the Beards night out. They when I think back, as much as I liked Beards episode, it really did kill the pacing of the season itself. But I have a lot of questions. What's going to come next, especially when it comes to the dynamic now of Jamie, Roy, and Keeley. Keeley's off doing her own thing. I do love the fact that we've established the one of the best friendships in television. That's Rebecca and Keeley. Such a great relationship, right? Because I mean, if you know how girls' besties work, they're like them. They're potty mouths. They're crazy. They have just so many things about that friendship I really enjoy. Um, I really want to see more about what's going to happen with the payoff with Jamie and his father. I thought that was going to be paid off this season, setting him up to become a better person in season three, but it looks like they're going to pull that into season three as well. So that, along with Ted's health, along with now Nate and Rupert running a new franchise, there's just so many things there. Also, I forget his name now. Is it Richardson, the guy that played the billionaire?
Yeah, Sam Richardson.
Sam Richardson. I thought the payoff was gonna be bigger than what it was. Now it was funny when Sam turned him down and his response was fucking hilarious. Like, I'm going to buy your childhood home and take a shit in every room. That was fucking hilarious. But I thought it was gonna be like a bigger thing. Like he was gonna do something really big, like kind of in a dramatic sense, involving Sam. But it was hilarious, his response, his tantrum. But yeah, I really like the season. Not as much as season one. They've got a lot to make up and to cover in season three, man. I will say that now. They're gonna have a lot to cover in what 10 to 12 episodes. So, yeah, I think it's gonna go by really fast. I see the biggest complaint about this season was soccer became a very far behind backdrop to the show. I think it needs to come back and be part of the forefront again
And I would
because
imagine for the
yeah,
final act, it has to,
it has to
like
because
by design.
it was big in season one, the games, all of it. It was a big backdrop, an active backdrop. Not so much in season two. It was more about each person's lives and what's going on individually, and then their dynamic together. Um, the one thing I will complain about is how they handled Nate's turn to the dark side because he went from being this nice guy within 1 year of being like the water boy essentially, or the groundskeeper slash trainer, to becoming this hotshot coach and a punk bitch. I thought he was a punk bitch, man. He was a hoe ass bitch in season two. I
I
gotta say
100% agree. But I
that
think again that's like the point. I don't think they made it super eloquently.
yeah,
I think there was a lot of rough edges around that story.
yep.
But
They
that
botched the
whole
execution of it. They botched the execution of
yeah,
it. It could have been a lot better. Like the scene where he's with Keely dressed, trying on suits, and he kisses her and goes to the dressing room and starts crying. I'm like, okay, so is he conflicted about what he's like, his personality? Is he conflicted about him wanting a lot more out of his like out of his career? Like, what is that dynamic? We don't hear a lot about that. We don't hear. And then when he has the confrontation at halftime with Coach Lasso, it was like just a bitch session that really, and Ted just took it. I'm like, okay, well, Ted can just kill this with just one line. It was like, you were nothing until I found you, you know?
yeah.
That's really true. That would have made him feel like shit and kind of ended the whole thing. But I think maybe they didn't do that because they want Ted to be the better man, and that's fine. But I think that the execution of him turning to the dark side was botched. I really didn't like it because he went from being this gentle guy to being this nasty guy. And I know people are going to say, well, there was shadowing throughout the season, but how he treated the trainer and then how he treated one of the guys of the team, I'm not really buying that. Like, it was just like him making like remarks to them, but he really wasn't as aggressive. And then all of a sudden, in the last two episodes, he's like this major villain. All of a sudden, it's
Yeah, I
eh,
think they were
I
going
don't know.
for the
Didn't like it.
nice guy trope, which is that like, the guy that thinks he deserves so much of life because he's the nice guy, you know?
Yeah,
Which,
yeah,
and again, that's one of those like subtly insidious things about just real life,
sure.
and I think that's clearly what they were going for in his character. I think they, like you said, they missed a few things where we didn't get the motivation for
Yeah,
like why he was doing what he was doing, but intellectually, like we can see the pieces moving, so it's functional enough. Um, and I think there's a payoff yet to come, specifically with one Trent Krim in season three. It just clicked in my head. Oh shit, that's probably what they're doing. But
Now that you that makes sense. But with that said, we like the little snippets we see of Nate, kind of like what direct drives him, and like I think the example is his parents' anniversary dinner at that little restaurant, and how he basically had to have Rebecca and Keeley talk him up to be confident to ask for that window seat, right? That window table. Little things like that, I think everybody put it in place for him to be a bigger man or a better man. Like, just, I mean, in season one, he was pretty much just a guy that was so down the totem pole, but Ted pulled him up. He pulled him up. He didn't just give him the opportunity and Nate shined. He pulled him up, to their level. And even then, people didn't respect him at the end of season one enough. And all of a sudden, when Ted has that panic attack in season two, Nate has this moment where he just takes the reins. Okay, in any sport, if that happens, if it's one snippet of a moment in sport, does that really necessitate someone becoming the next big coach in that in their
at
sport?
least not in our sports over here.
Not in American sports. That doesn't happen over here. Like
No.
it's no, like if something like that happens, okay, great. And then, it's good for sports talk, but people aren't saying, is he the next great football coach or the next great baseball coach, manager? That's not really how it happens over here. So that may be something that happens over there when it comes to
And of
soccer. I
course,
don't know.
it's all overdone. It's all turned up to
Yeah.
11, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
like
true.
there's that whole suspend the disbelief a little bit because they're trying to tell a story and like with a point.
Yeah.
So for me, season 2, but without before we get into any spoilers,
Yeah.
season 2, a clear for me at the moment step down from season 1. Depends again on a planned 3-act story. You
Sure.
don't judge it 2 acts in. You got to get to the finale. And I hope Apple doesn't insert themselves and make them do a 4th season. Like, it's a 3-part story. Let them tell the 3 parts, Like, that's so you judge it based on you got to have the follow through to judge the setup,
Okay.
right? But within season 2, it's a lot of setup. And there could have been the payoff here for a couple of points to really hammer home, like the point about specifically mental health. They just don't. It just fizzles out. They drop the ball instead of dropping the hammer on the point, which is very much like they set it up well enough for like a great Ted Lasso speech at the end about the importance of mental health and like him, really, shining in that moment. And they just don't do it. Like it's there on the table. He started his intro, done. We're moving on to a next scene. Like, no, that's the point you had to make, which is that we should talk about mental health in a more open and honest way, is extremely important. And in the context of the story, having the head football coach be the one to say that is a lot more impactful than a player doing it, even than the owner doing it. Like the head
Sure.
football coach, who's the face of it, who's the one who's been, now publicly flogged for the fact that he had a panic attack, having him stand up and say, like I'm handling my mental health and all these other things, and I'm taking care of myself, and we need to not stigmatize this. And they just didn't do it, and I don't see where they're going to fit that in into season 3. So, because season 3, it's all going to be about, hey, we're back in the in the Premier League, we're going for the ship, right? Like
Yep.
that's the story. There's not going to be, unless it's an episode 1 mulligan. Maybe it was a COVID thing. Maybe they needed to, maybe they just needed to get offset and they were done. I don't know. Maybe those extra 2 episodes really, really fucked things up. Who
Yeah.
knows? But it just for me felt like, man, that's missing. Like that piece is just gone. Like it was taken out of the story, and it didn't need to be, because Sudeikis would have killed that speech, right? Like he'd have been awesome, and we don't get it. So again, that affects the rest of the setup, because if he'd had that moment, the rest of the season all clicks into place and it's awesome. Maybe not still quite as good as season 1, but still damn good. But without that follow through, the setup just kind of fizzles out, and that sucks. Because the rest of the stuff was pretty good, like the subplots with Sam. Is he leaving? Is he going? Tart, figuring out how to just not be a shitbag, and when it's also sometimes necessary to be a dick.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a thing in sports. Like sometimes you need that dude, right? Like, but knowing when to appropriately do it, and again, as an allegory for life, when to sometimes be that guy just not in a sport. Like sometimes you need to, right? Sometimes your team needs that guy. So that was fun. The Roy stuff, figuring out again his place in life post sports. A lot of fun storylines, even in the extra episode on the Christmas stuff with him and his, basically kid in Phoebe. Um, Plus the subplot with like him realizing, oh shit, I'm like she like probably sees me as like a father figure. Like
Hmm.
what that would do to someone who didn't even not even on their radar, right? And all of a sudden this like 8-year-old basically is like, yeah, he's the closest thing I have to a dad. Like that would be a complete mind fuck. Plus everything else he's going on in his life. Stuff with Keely and Rebecca. Didn't really give a shit about the Sam Rebecca romance at all. Not terrible, don't get me wrong, not like
No,
off
no.
putting. It was just like, oh, I guess they're doing that.
Yeah.
Huh. Weird. But again, the actors sell it well enough. I'm like, okay, I buy it. I guess not the worst thing I've ever seen in drama storytelling for romances at
Yeah.
all. Not even close.
Well,
It's
we
just
knew we knew what was happening with last season's cliffhanger, or not cliffhanger, but finale. And then when the dating app starts taking like a big effect in season 2, we knew where they were heading with this.
yeah,
When the reveal is it's them, we were like, okay, yeah, we knew that was coming.
yeah. Like again, there's nothing bad in in this season. It's just there's some rough edges, some
Sure.
network fuckery with Apple.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, make 2 more episodes. We need that extra month of subscription revenue. Like throwing off their pace. Plus it's also act 2 of a story, so like it's more down to earth, more, slice of life kind of stuff before we
Yeah.
ramp back up into the finale. You kind of had to you got to get people over with season 1 and flesh out, what's going on with all your different subplots and story beats and you're tying off certain things. It's season 2, so you're ramping up what worked in season 1, shutting off what didn't, and finding new gears for your characters. Like I think that whole tart romance subplot thing very clearly hand waved in the finale of like, oh, I just hate funerals make me feel weird. Like very clearly
Yeah.
oh no, we're not doing that again. That's not happening. Like I
Yeah.
think that was the writers been like, nope, it's not happening.
Yeah.
So I think again that's like a writer's room. Like you're gonna try these characters in this fashion, and does it work? And then if it doesn't, you bail. Right? You go do something else. So I think that's where they were at with season 2. But season 1 was just so perfect. Like it was distilled perfect, streaming, adult, R-rated, but wholesome, like sports story about just like sports at large as opposed to the sport itself.
Yeah.
That it was awesome. Season 2 had a lot to live up to. I don't think it ever could have because season 1 just took everybody by surprise. It came out of nowhere. Nobody expected this should be good. Are you kidding me? A character based on a 7-minute NBC sports kit from like 9 years ago?
Yeah.
That's a show that Apple's going to dump this kind of money into. Oh, it's amazing. It took the world by storm. Of course, it won a shitload of awards too. I don't think season 2 is going to.
No, I don't think so either.
But again, one last caveat. I want to wait. Maybe season 3 will make us look back at season 2 and go, "Oh, I see where they got the seeds of this story, or this is where the middle part of that act really was, and here was the follow through. The whole, lose promotion, win the whole thing. Like let's see it all the way through to the end because it's paint by numbers. They're gonna win it all. Like
Fine.
that's the beauty of a story like this is that we know what's happening. We know
Yeah.
where the end game is, right? We know where they're gonna go. It's like Frodo's gonna destroy the ring, but it's still awesome, right? Like getting there is amazing. So I'm sure getting there is gonna be fucking awesome, even though we know they're gonna win, and we know now they're gonna curb stomp that little pissant fucking Nate into the dirt. It's going to be incredible to watch. Everyone's going to be fist pumping. It's going to be cathartic. And I also think that's why they made his turn so severe. Is
Okay.
so that that moment is extra cathartic, not just for us, the audience, but for the characters.
To show you that there's no redemptive arc here.
Yeah,
Like
like he has crossed the river. He is
this isn't Anakin coming back at the very end of his life. He's gone to a path he can't come
yeah.
back from.
And
Yeah.
speaking of, it's spoiler time here. I don't think
Okay.
we really spoiled anything like super major that wasn't, from the prior episodes beyond the finale. Because of course we're
Yeah.
recording this on finale day.
Yeah.
only two characters officially, though I'm pretty sure Beard knows, who like leaked the story
Yep.
about Nate being the one that said, "Hey, Lasso had a panic attack. I deserve all the credit."
Yep.
That moment alone, Nate can go die in a fire. Like fuck that dude forever, right? And then of course that it's Trent Krim. That's where I was saying earlier. I think I know where Trent Krim's story is going to go in season 3. He of course reveals his source to Ted, which is a big journalistic no-no.
Yep.
But he uses it as a fucking fire me, bro. This was wrong. Like this is my line, and he crossed it. You know, and that's a fair enough moment for most people to have. Whether they're a reporter or not.
But
Somebody.
we've established in season 1 that he's an ethical man. Like
Yeah,
he
like
does
he
his job.
respects. Ted. He's an honorable guy. He's honest
Yeah.
to a
Yep.
fault.
To
You
a
know,
fault. Yeah.
he's that kind of reporter. But then he finds this moment of like, man, Nate's just the worst. So I
Yeah.
gotta tell Ted. And of course, it sounds like he kind of outed himself to his boss.
Yeah.
Not maybe who the source was, but like I told the story who the source was.
Yeah.
And he's like, basically like, throw up the deuces. I'm out the door. Peace out, bitches. I want to go find something better to do with my time. But his find something deeper. I
Okay.
think it's going to be a book that's going to drop right before the finale, dropping the whole story about Nate being the one that revealed it and how Nate is just like it's like a profile of Nate, and he's like it basically everybody turns on him at the end. So it's not just the players and Ted and Rebecca having this cathartic moment. It's
It's
all
everyone.
AFC. The whole world turns against Nate because
Okay.
he's trying to build himself up. His plot in season 3 is probably going to be all building himself up. Like I'm the guy. Like
Yep.
and he's going to win a shitload of games.
And
Like
that's what I was gonna say. I guarantee you the first episode is gonna be about, his team is on a roll. They're stomping everybody, and they're doing interviews with this guy on ESPN or something, talking about how he's the one that was he was the mastermind behind Ted Lasso's success
yeah,
here in
to
England.
call
In
back to
England.
season 1, I think he shows up on Sports Center with maybe even Scott Van Pelt, which was an
Yep.
actual fun little bit there. And maybe it's a reference like Van Pelt's like, from an American audience, like what did you think of Ted Lasso? Like you coached under him for a couple of seasons. So like what did you learn from him? And then he's gonna throw Ted under the bus. I'm like, I didn't learn
Yep.
anything from him. Ted learned
Yep.
everything from me. It's gonna further cement him as the villain.
Yep.
And then, but everything around him is rosy and it's great. And then all of a sudden, here comes Trent Krim with a fucking huge truth bomb of what the fuck happened, and
Yep.
everybody turns on him.
Well, and we
Everybody,
know
his
that
home players quit on him.
in the middle of the season, we're gonna get that they're gonna meet in a game.
And
And
lose.
Nate's gonna destroy them. They're gonna
hmm
destroy them because you have to build them up for that ultimate fall. And I'm okay with that. I'm not really looking for a redemptive arc, and I think you're right. The fact that he just became this mega tool, the leaking the information out to the media, that's just there's no way he can come back from that at this point. And he knew that. That's why he was crying, because he realizes he's alienating the people. Okay, that's fine, but they really don't show, outside of just like that little moment, they really don't show him having the remorse for what he's doing,
Yeah.
and then they don't show him being conflicted, like, I deserve more. These are my friends, they've helped me, but I deserve more. I'm better. I'm better.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the momentum of popularity coming from under the Ted Lasso coaching tree, all that stuff, and then him becoming a media darling with the team doing well. I think all that's going to be inflate his ego. And I'll be honest with you, Ted Lasso has a mustache. The best way to fucking do this with Nate is to have him have a Star Trek goatee, dude. He's
Oh, for
got to
sure.
have He's got to
Go
have
for it.
the bad guy
Yes.
goatee, the Spock goatee. That's that, the fresh face.
Oh, I want
He's
him to
not a
struggle to grow it though. Like
yeah, like
to not
it's
have it be a good
rattier
one,
and
right? Like and
yeah.
have Beard just walk up to him, full luscious beard, and just shake his head, walk away. Right? Like it'd be an epic moment, right?
God, oh
But like
man,
for me, also cutting against that, it's all building up for him until it all comes crashing down.
yep,
Then at halftime or something right before the game, maybe at a practice, or maybe it's during the game where like or halftime or something where they like I don't know whatever would happen. Nate tries to come clean, but like like maybe he tries to have that moment, which entitled people do when they're called out on their shit. They'll try to be remorseful, even though it's all self-serving, and just have Ted nail him to the wall. Like no more skating by. We're done. I'm gonna own you. Like I like halfway in the season. I was trying to meet you halfway, and you spurned me, and then you've done all name all the other things he's done, and then just have Ted be like, no, there's only so many times you can try with a person. You've used up your chances, and then they just fucking steamroll him, right? Like that's the final nail in the coffin is Ted being like, nope, you're done, and he's and that's the end.
Come
They
on,
win the whole
it's Ted.
championship.
It's Ted. So he's gonna make sports references, right?
Yeah,
So he's probably gonna say, "Look, Nate's apology went something like this. Look, I apologize, blah 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 blah." And there's a drive in the deep left field by Castellanos, and that'll be a home run, and it's a four ball. Like
it's
he may
something
do
like that.
something
Yeah,
like a relevant kind of joke about it, like, because they make these jokes that are really like they're not over the top. They're kind of like under the radar jokes, like about movies and celebrities. Like, oh, but so and so is great, and they all agree. Like, yeah,
that or
like
I could see it being a Rocky Four moment where he's like, yeah, he's won the first 11 rounds. It's championship time. Here's the final four. We're Rocky fucking Balboa and just go cut him down, right?
yeah.
Like that kind of shit. It's gonna be awesome.
It's really like they're gonna make him the most unlikable person leading up to
The
whether it
finale
be the finale,
or the
whether
penultimate. Yeah,
they yeah, like whether it's the penultimate or whatever, they're going to like the showdown is going to be so big between these two teams. We know that's what we're going to. These two teams for the championship, right? And I mean, really, when you really think about it, though, if you're from a like a logical sports thinking, if Nate is such an asshole, but in his first year of like a head coach, if he takes his team to the championship game, regardless of the outcome, he still had one of the most like
yeah.
like one of the most skyrocketing careers like within the first few years of his of his coaching career. So then that means that you're right, the payoff's going to have to be something horrible, like his team just either quits on him or something
I think
like
it's
after the book
and
or whatever.
that's where the Trent Krim thing comes in.
Yeah,
Like he's still got the hey, I did all this myself, but then Krim drops that. No, he sold out his coach, sold out his mentor and his friend for his own gain.
yeah,
That's the kind of person Nate is. I don't even know his last name. That's the kind of person he is. And then that's when the team quits on him. Like that's when it all starts to crumble. You just kind of see it from players. They still go
yeah,
out and give AFC Richmond a game, but like when it's all on the line, Nate's gonna crumble, start freaking out on his players, and they just shut down and just get hosed in the second half, right?
or they
Like
ignore him, like
yeah,
he's
or they
yelling at
just
them
straight up ignore him. Yeah,
or
exactly.
ignore him.
Leave him on an island of his own
Yeah,
making, right?
yep,
Like I think that's where they're going with his character, and I'm looking forward to it. It's not like the most like unique story out there, but like still, it's all on the telling. It's all in the acting and the the writing and the jokes and the way we get there, and I'm very excited about it.
yep.
So, any other thoughts we have on Ted Lasso season 2?
Yeah, you've mentioned it a few times here. I hope Apple really doesn't shoot themselves in the foot here and force them to make this a 15 episode season, something like that. Or break up, like have say we're gonna do 14 episodes and break it up over 2 years, the final season, something crazy like that, like Soprano style, like anything like that. They've done a good job so far, except for the two additional the two additional episodes hurt momentum in season two, but honestly, they didn't sink season two. They
No,
weren't the
not
season
at
wasn't
all.
sunk because of it. So I just hope they don't get in their own way in season three, or they force a season four. Let's let everybody that jumped into this whole production said from the very beginning, we see a 3 season type of show to tell this story, right?
Mm,
Okay, we both know as big sports fans where we're headed from. New guy, foreign land, his players and his team falls in love with him. They struggle, but the eventual payoff at the end is to win the whole goddamn thing, right? That's really where we're at. So we know what's going to happen at the end. Hey, they may shock us and they may not win the title.
maybe they
I mean,
Friday Night Lights it.
well, it may not even be that. And maybe Nate's team decides to just walk out, and then they can't just award the trophy or the title, the title, the cup to
Yeah,
Richmond. They may not be able to do that, so that something at the end of the season happens. But at the end of it all, you know, they come out on top without being the champion because of what happened. But like they persevered, and Ted Lasso ends up, winning in the end in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
I don't know, but yeah, I'm really excited for season three because they built up a lot in season two that I didn't expect to happen. A lot of some I did expect to happen, but the way they turned Nate, I like I said, I didn't really like how they did it the last few episodes, but if they make him this arrogant asshole at the beginning of season one, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what they did at that point. Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. One other thing was beyond the relationship stuff. Sam's story arc this season was fantastic.
Yes,
Like
it was.
his ascension as a young man into being the mature leader of the team. And I think
Yep.
season three is going to end with him becoming the captain, if not for the finale, at least partway through the season. He's going to get named the captain.
Yep.
Maybe something happens to Isaac, who's a character who we've got like one good episode from, with some bit parts here and there. But we got more stuff from the guy that was Dutch this year than we did Isaac.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like so maybe something happens. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he just decides his heart's not in it anymore. I don't know, and he gives up the captaincy to Sam. And then of course there's the moment with Tart where he's like, yeah, makes sense. That kind of thing. Passing of the torch to the new generation being Sam Obisanya. So yeah, his character was awesome, and I really enjoyed his arc this year. But yeah, other than that, I think we hit most of the highlights that I had for my notes.
Sure. Sure.
And beyond my reiteration of the fact that the Beard episode would have been either a great midweek filler or after season episode. And I
Sure.
think it would have saved a lot of the issues we were having with regards to the pacing, specifically with Nate's and Ted's both divergent plots at that point. Because it kind of took the wind out of the sails, like, oh, now we got to wait 2 weeks. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Apple. Whereas if we'd had to only wait a week and then we got like an episode on a Monday, right? Like just a random surprise out of nowhere. We got a Beard episode. That'd have been amazing. Social media would have been ablaze for a couple of days, and then boom, new episodes out on Friday as normal. Right? I think that would have been cool. But they didn't go that way, and that's the breaks. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's really it, man. Like I said, wasn't as good as season one, but it was still a good season. Can't wait for season three.
Yep, it's gonna be great. So moving on. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to do What If, which you saw, I did not, or do you want to do Bond, which I saw and you did not?
Let's do this. I'm gonna turn it over to you for Bond because I have yet to see it. I will at some point here very soon, but I want to get your thoughts on Bond.
Okay. No Time to Die. I saw that last night at a 7 o'clock showing. Got a very nice burrito, queso and cheese and chicken and hot salsa. Damn good.
Nice.
Though I probably shouldn't have had the pip. That I paid for that this morning. Very, they go well together when you're eating them. Not
Did
so
you just
well.
say Mr. Pibb?
Pip extra is what I have. But it's mostly
Mr. Pibb? Come
they. Well,
on,
their Coke.
man.
The Coke at this place sucks. Like
Okay.
I don't know if it's something with their machine. I don't know. And I'm also not a huge Coke guy. I don't even like Pepsi.
Okay.
Like my only two like darker sodas I drink will be Dr. Pepper or Pig Extra. One of those
Okay.
two. They're close enough to each other, though Dr. Pepper would be my preferred. I'll roll with Pig Extra. It's fine with me.
I'm a weirdo, man. I can just smell the difference. Like I've
Oh,
been
don't
at
get me wrong.
restaurants.
There's a
And,
like the fizz is different. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that carbon,
Yeah.
like it's a different thing. Dr. Pepper is closer to a on the taste, and it's like a bitey root beer. Like an A&W with some bite. You
Yeah.
know?
But it's got that burn. It has that
Yeah,
burn
exactly.
that
Like,
others don't.
yeah, it's closer almost like Barks root beer. Remember that?
Yeah.
Barks is pretty close to Dr. Pepper.
Pretty close, yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
threw cola in Barks root beer, you'd be damn close to a Dr. Pepper. But we're getting on a tangent here.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're getting
sorry
on
for
a
the
tangent.
tangent.
Sorry,
Also,
sorry, guys.
Pancheros is fucking amazing. It's one of the best burrito joints in the Midwest, at least for a franchise. Well, obviously, individual places are great, but for a franchise, Pancheros is dope and kicks the shit out of Chipotle. It's not even close.
Okay.
So, went and saw No Time to Die. I think I've seen beyond Casino Royale, I've seen every Bond in this era in theaters. Of course, I was a little too young to see anything from Brosnan in theaters. So Bond for me, I think Daniel Craig's still probably my favorite Bond. Just as Bond, his movies have not all been great, but no Bond really has 100%. Every movie was great. Even Connery had some real stinkers. Like they just really they don't hold up, or they just weren't like Like, it's one of those weird things. It's like, man, how did this take off a couple of times? You know, beyond it being Sean Connery, if it had been anybody else, I don't know if Bond would have really taken off in America as opposed to just being a British thing.
Yeah.
But No Time to Die, I think, was a really fitting end for Craig's era, especially as his was one of the more serialized versions of Bond, where it's a continuous through arc. You know, it's the same characters. You know, we're seeing the relationships. Like, you know, he's friends still even post retirement with Moneypenny. You know, like they were still close. You know, and all that. It was plus they did some things that I'm glad they stayed away from, which is I was worried they were going to make it this. Here's the new Double O, Lashana Lynch, and like have them, have a passing of the torch moment. Doesn't
Sure.
happen. Not a thing. She's just a professional Double O. It's a different type of agent than he is. There's a little professional rivalry, but they respect each other. They work well together, and Bond is a actual professional. Like they don't treat him as a asshole. They don't make him act like an asshole, more or less. And Craig, of course, is still excellent as ever. It's a continuation of like kind of the Spectre arc, which is one of the few areas that I'm like, man, you guys really should have had a plan for this if you're gonna do
Yeah.
serialized stuff. Because there's a lot of the Spectre arc that doesn't work for me, specifically about Blofeld. Why does he need to be Bond's adopted brother? Why is that integral to the plot in any way? Because Mission Impossible 5 and 6 did this like rival spy agency hiding beneath the shadows kind of thing way
Yeah.
better than Bond. The
Yeah.
Rogue Nation subplot with oh god, what was his name? That the villain, you know, was a way better villain
Oh,
than
I
Blofeld.
forget his name now. God, his name. It's
He sticks in my brain. I can't think of his name, and
yeah.
Blofeld sticks in my name because Christoph Waltz is a phenomenal actor.
Yep.
But he didn't need to be Bond's brother. Like that didn't need to be a thing at all. And that's one of the biggest failures of their storytelling within this universe. But as a whole, it was a damn fun movie, and holy shit, was it gorgeous in points. Like some of the scenery shots they have, holy shit, some of the best ever. Like the action scenes where Bond's, it's very Casino Royale-ish in terms of like it's hard hitting, it's fast. Like you're not lingering on shots. Like we're just getting shit done, which I really dug about this Bond era. It's not over the top. There's some gadgets, but like they're pretty muted.
Yeah.
There's an EMP watch, you know, nothing crazy. He gets one great pun with it. He has a guy with a glass eye thing, which is like a computer in his eye, like a transceiver, and he blows it up. He's like, "Q, I showed someone your watch. Totally blew their mind." Right, like that kind of thing. It's one of those, which is a very Bond-esque kind of one-liner, right? But it lands because he's just got the shit kicked out of him for like 10 minutes in a firefight versus like 20 dudes and won. So of course he's going to have that moment and it works. There's a lot of stuff that works. It's just, man, I really wish they would have had better setup for this movie, like as the finale. That's what really holds it back for me. If you didn't latch on to certain characters in prior iterations of this Bond, the emotional impact of where they end up in the story just isn't quite there, I don't think. But if you dug those characters and their place in the story, particularly the French lady, Madeline, I think is her name. Again, like I don't even know her name specifically, but like she's the daughter of the guy behind the scenes in the first movie, Mr. White. But like
Mhm.
that was a case of clearly they didn't know how important he was going to be in that first movie until the second movie. And then by the third movie, like, oh wait, he maybe has a daughter. Maybe. I don't know. Right? Like it's one of those things of man, having a plan would be nice if you're gonna
Yeah.
continue characters. Introducing new characters is fine. But if you're gonna continue their story from prior arcs, like make it make sense. It didn't quite fit it all in the pocket for this Bond. But damn was it good. I still had a great time. Like, it's still just a great time with the movies. Even with all my quibbles. Um but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend going to watch it without spoiling what happens or what does not happen to one James Bond.
Nice. And just to insert myself here, Solomon Lane in Rogue Nation.
That's it. I knew it was an
He's the leader of
S.
this. Sean Harris. He leads the syndicate.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Syndicate. God damn, those movies are so good.
All right.
God, like that Mission Impossible
It's
5 and 6
crazy to
back to
think
back. God,
it's crazy to think this series got better from the third film onward. It's
Yeah,
we've talked about this before, but
they
like
Fast and
the
Furious
first,
it, but better.
but better, but better. And of course, adding Simon Pegg to things doesn't hurt you at
Nope, you
all.
need that comic relief. I mean,
Yeah. But he's the comic relief, but he's not so slapstick
he's the
though.
competent comic relief.
Yeah,
He's the
exactly.
Q of
Yeah.
their universe, which is awesome. Simon Pegg is Q. Are you kidding me? Perfect,
Right?
perfect. Like if you were gonna spoof James Bond, you would cast Simon Pegg as Q.
Yep.
Like they couldn't have done any better with that.
Yep.
Right? But so as a whole, have you seen all the rest of Bond's this Bond
Yes.
era films?
Yes, I have. I'm not a huge Daniel Craig fan, like in terms of like I for me, Bond is a good series for me to watch, but it's not like I'm so dedicated to it. But I always know I want to watch a Bond film because it's such an important IP for their studio that they're going to put some care into what they do.
Yeah, and a
Not,
serious amount of money.
yeah, the serious amount of money. Like this is something that they take seriously. Like you said, they don't always get things right, and like in the last movie as a perfect example of that, and that's fine. But when MGM, right, it's
Yeah,
the studio, okay, when MGM's like, we're going to do another Bond, this is like, this is something for them. This is like their Star Wars to them. Like,
yeah.
hey,
It
this
still
is, you know,
resonates
yeah. I mean, you think about how big it is because we're talking
60
about
years
Amazon
later.
Bond, MGM potentially being purchased by Amazon, and with all of the IPs that are out there, including like with the old catalog, the number one thing on the top of everyone's list in every single news article was James Bond. That's really it, right? They say, this is what they're going to get, and you really think about the billions of dollars they'll spend. It's like, okay, it's worth it because going forward, they can produce those Bond movies, and internationally, they'll do well. They'll always do well because it's James Bond, and in Europe, the box office people will go watch. I'm curious to see the turnout of this one. I haven't done that yet, so I'll have to
The
go see
prior
what
to
the.
America release was very good. It was already over 100 million.
Okay, well that's much better than some of the other releases recently, like
Yes.
Let There Be Carnage. Just we
Did
could
it
talk
right in
about that another
America,
time.
but not anywhere else.
Not anywhere else, but I mean, but also the reviews of it are horrible. I think people essentially went to go watch the
Mid credits,
mid
yeah. The
credits
mid credit
scene.
scene stole all the thunder.
Yeah, that's really it. But I'm gonna watch it here at some point. I just don't know if I'm gonna wait for it, to come on streaming or actually go to a theater to watch it. It just depends on my schedule. Like I said, there's just so much stuff right now that it's not a priority, but I'll still watch it. Just it's I liked Casino Royale. I liked it. I didn't think a whole lot happened in that film for me, but it still was in line to Bond. It was a still like it was still in line for the action that's in a Bond movie. So I know when we think back to Craig being cast as the blonde Bond, everyone was so there was such outrage if you remember on the
Oh
internet. You
yeah,
remember
he
how
was like,
there's-
no, he's not. He can't be Bond.
he
It
can't
was
be
like
Bond.
casting Heath Ledger as Joker. Like everyone was
And then
like, "What?
and then
What
when
are you doing?"
and then when Casino Royale that trailer hit, people were like, "Okay,
Yeah.
it probably
Oh
won't be
damn.
so bad." Like, all right, okay, like he's actually gonna be a good Bond. A little more of a rugged looking Bond, but okay, that's he's more in line to the books.
Yeah,
He's
he's
more in
very
line to
much
the book.
that Ian Fleming,
Yes.
license to kill Bond,
Yep.
right? Like, and they play that up a lot.
Yep.
But you got an
So
actor like Craig who can really do that, like just that cold stare so
yep.
well. Like,
Yep.
if you don't lean into that, I think you're doing the character a disservice. So,
Exactly. So I'm interested what happens next. Who will take the reins, where they'll go next with the films based off of the books, or if they there's always been talks for the last 5-6 years about having a female Bond. Like, okay, well, let's just see what they do next. Let's see where
yep.
they pivot next with the MGM pivots next with Bond. I'm all for it. I'll give this a watch here very soon. I don't know if I'm going to go to a theater for it, but I'll if my calendar, like if my schedule allows it, then I'll go sneak into a theater probably during the week, like in the morning. Catch a matinee when no one's around, like when I have time in the morning, before like my work schedule gets big. I can do that because I have a mall right around the corner. I can jump into the AMC real quick, sneak in, watch a movie, and get back home within 5 minutes. So I may do that at some point here soon.
Yeah. I would also maybe recommend watching the rest of his era. I wish I made the time to do that, because maybe
Okay.
that would have helped with the emotional resonance. Because there are some major returning characters, like we talked about it being a great week for Jeffrey Wright. He's in this movie, much like he
Yep.
is in Marvel's What If as the titular Watcher. And he's not super a lot in the movie, but like his story is pretty impactful for Bond's, not to spoil it, but his motivation, which should
Okay.
be a big signal for what happens to his character.
Yep.
Um, but and maybe if I had seen the other movies that he's in, because he's in Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and what's the third one? Was he
Skyfall.
in Spectre?
I
He was in one of them.
think he was at Skyfall, right?
Yeah, he might have been in Skyfall, like barely, but
Okay.
like he's a recurring, American counterpart kind of character. Um, and yeah, his return is a welcome sight, and then what happens, of course, happens. Which, yeah, he dies, but it's the one spoiler you get, but it's not that far into the movie. But I think it, for how little I'd resonated with the character, that moment still like, hit. And that's a testament to the movie. It's like, man, that and Craig's performance is like, yeah, I get it. He saw him kind of as a contemporary, as like that one of the few friends he had in the world kind of guy. And
Mhm.
then when he dies, hey, I gotta finish this, you know. And that's an interesting story to go out on for his era. So for me, my final rankings of his era, just so you have maybe a frame of reference.
Sure.
Casino Royale's number one. It's still one of the best Bond movies. How well that movie is shot, the
Yeah.
action scenes, like the construction scene itself, when he's just
Oh god.
fucking Kool-Aid Manning through drywall, like it's nothing, right? Like you feel that this Bond is Terminator. Like he will kill you. And you feel that the bad guys know it too. That they're like, no matter what I do, no matter what I throw at him, James Bond's gonna come kill me. Right? Like it's a really well done take on the character that coming from Brosnan, which was very tongue in cheek, winking at the audience. It was no, here comes Daniel Craig and he's gonna murder you.
Yep.
Right? Like it was very much a punch right to the face. And it was great for that. Plus was it Chris Cornell did the
Yep.
soundtrack for the intro track for that one? Awesome intro. Like the You Know My Name intro. So good. Probably the second best of all his intros. Skyfall's my next one. It's not a
Okay.
perfect movie. It's very much two movies commingled into one and it's bursting at the seams, but it's awesome. It's like super awesome spy thriller with a great villain meets Home Alone, right? Like it just randomly turns into Home Alone at the end, but it's hilarious and awesome. Like if you're not having a good time watching Skyfall, you're a crazy person. No Time to Die, I'd put it number 3.
Okay.
The villain's lackluster, but Bond's performance and his relationship to his peers in MI6 really sell this movie. Even though the villain kind of sucks in comparison to the other two. I thought Mads Mikkelsen was a great understated villain, and of course Javier Bardem was a great "oh, I'm the villain" story,
Yeah.
right? Spectre I have as number 4 because it all kind of fell on its face. Like I didn't buy the Blofeld stuff. If you're going to set up this insidious conspiracy, you need to have seeded that a lot more than just one assassin that Bond takes out in the end of the first movie, you
Sure.
know, with Mr. White. You need to set that up more. Even though his love interest was like fairly well developed actually for a Bond movie. In that movie with being Mr. White's daughter. I thought that was actually pretty well done. And Quantum of Solace, of course, is my least favorite one, but it itself is not a terrible movie. None of these are bad movies. It's just kind of forgettable, though it does have the best intro soundtrack. Another Way to Die, Alicia Keys and Jack White. Fuck yeah, that's a great track. That rules. This movie's intro was a Billie Eilish song, but I'm actually pretty sure they originally commissioned, or maybe had gone to the Petty Reckless, which is a rock group. They put out
Mhm.
a song last year, which is when Bond was supposed to come out, called 25. This is the 25th Bond movie. And there's a whole lot of piano in this rock track that's very much
Hmm.
in the exact timing of a Bond theme.
Hmm.
Very peculiar that, and they literally have a lyric where like the man with the golden gun, like their lyrics are very much evocative of Bond titles like Live and Let Die and stuff like that, right? And it's all about like it's it's very much this was probably supposed to be when it was originally supposed to come out. I bet this was the track. And then Billie Eilish, of course, exploded, and the movie got pushed. So they're like, well, let's just have Billie Eilish do a song, which makes sense. Don't get me wrong. She's definitely a way bigger name than a rock band headed by Taylor Momsen, right?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
but it's a great track though. 25 Rules. It's on my rock playlist for sure. It's a little slower, but than most of the stuff I have, but it's still really good. So that's my rankings of the Bond franchise and my thoughts on No Time to Die. Still think it's worth going and watching theaters because man, there's a scene with that old school '60s Aston Martin. Fuck, it's cool. It's just
Five
cool.
films. He's in 5 films. Is Roger Moore or Sean Connery the leader with films?
Oh, like who was the Bond
But
most amount of times?
who did the most Bonds films? I think it's Roger Moore because he did that one. Remember he did that one Bond movie that they say technically isn't
He
canon.
did 7 films. Roger Moore
7 films.
did,
Okay, okay.
but Connery's one was like technically not canon, so he did like 6 canon, I
That's
think.
okay. It's Connery that did the non-canon one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was. Okay, well, he had a great run. I overall, it's like I said at the beginning of the discussion here, when people were so outraged with him being cast as it, I think looking back now with hindsight, people are going to be like, oh, I overall liked it, even though most of those people were the ones that were very critical about the casting. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good run. Interested to see where they go next with Bond. There's so much about Bond they have to adapt to a modern world,
Hmm.
the where we are culturally, politically,
I
socially,
actually
all that
don't know
stuff.
if
And
they do a James Bond movie. I think they just call it 00,
Double O.
and you do different stories within the universe, the same M, the same Q, but different Bonds.
Oh, it's
Maybe
possible.
Bonds weaving in and out of the story. I think you start with Lashana Lynch. She's an awesome actor who can really sell action and like that boots on the ground story. And you start with her, and now maybe she's the veteran and has like the younger 00, like working as a dual mission or something, and it doesn't have to be 007. Like it can be, it's a really cool world, and just let that be the world. Like use the world to tell the story, not James Bond.
Well, wouldn't you just do that as like if Amazon did acquire MGM, wouldn't you just do that as a series on
I
Amazon
could see them
Prime?
doing that. Really, I could see them
Yeah.
doing a super high quality. We're gonna get because like they do in Jack Ryan, which is similar ish
Yep.
kind of thing.
Yep.
But you do that with James Bond. It's got a little more cachet to it. Like that world, the MI6 world, is a little more. You know, people are gonna put eyeballs on that for sure. And you do that as a way to use your IP while you're still maybe retooling what you're gonna do with Bond.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're carrying the IP, still profiting off of what you bought, but you're not putting in all your eggs into a film and having it fail with a new Bond. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's the first when you talked about like go jumping into that world. I was like, okay, well, if Amazon acquires it, just do a show, do high
Hot
production
watch.
like a high production value show on Amazon Prime. And I mean,
Hell,
we have all
you could
these.
do a title track each episode.
Yeah, yeah,
Like lean into the Bondness of it without it being Bond.
yeah,
I think that'd be pretty cool.
yeah. Cool, man. Yeah.
So
I'll
moving
catch
on
it
to
at some
something else
point.
that was pretty cool. You
Yep.
watched Marvel's What If. What were your thoughts?
Obviously, going into this season of this show, we knew that it was focused on the multiverse. I don't know. Do you want me to go ahead and jump into spoilers about the last few episodes
If
or
people are
no?
still here 40 some, 50 some minutes into this episode, spoilers are on the table.
All right. So this whole thing about Infinity, Ultron, and the Watcher intervening and all that, I didn't expect them to have the Watcher intervene in a story this early, like in the first season. Maybe in seasons down the road, I would see that happen, but you've kind of killed the whole concept of the Watcher not intervening now. So if you do a season 2, it's gonna be really weird. The other thing is that the Guardians of the Multiverse, they assemble these characters that you've seen from different universes throughout the entire season, and to fight Infinity Ultron. This multiverse self-aware Ultron from one universe that acquires the stones from Thanos and then becomes aware of everything and like the multiverse of Uatu, everything, right? And he devours his world and decides I'm gonna go devour other universes as well. And so Uatu intervenes by basically pulling these characters from these other universes to become the Guardians of the Multiverse. Why isn't there anyone from either the 616 or the 19999 in this Guardians of the Multiverse? I mean, the MCU is probably the biggest universe because it's the sacred timeline, right? At one point, we have that established that it's the sacred timeline. Why aren't they? Why wasn't anyone from this MCU universe pulled out to help with this thing? I thought it was very really odd. Instead, we get the goofy Thor and some of the other
which is
characters.
actually Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, it's great, and
Like, why
it's
not just
great.
have him be regular Thor and crazy Thor?
He can do both. Well, I was expecting. See, this is the thing: is like if Thor is so fucking powerful, why don't we have the Thor Corps help out? You know, let's get a beta, let's sneak in Beta Ray Bill finally because fans have wanted to see the guy forever, right? We got what is it, Thorg, the
Yeah,
Frog Thorg. Let's just have him make a cameo. If not that, then why? Where's Captain Marvel from one of the many universes? Why hasn't a Captain Marvel shown up? So many things to ask about this. It's like no, it's strictly characters of importance from all the other episodes. We're bringing them into this to this one group to save the entire multiverse. Okay, well then they go back to their own worlds. We never hear about it again. Okay, so then the question is kind of a Rick and Morty kind of question now is like, how many times has Uatu done this? Has he done it before? Like, I mean, obviously, if it happens again, he's gonna do it again. So he does intervene, and he has he possibly intervened before that? It opens up a lot of questions that it frustrates me because I was annoyed by Endgame's 5 year jump and how it was like, okay, we're just all gonna go on with our lives 5 years later with a bunch of people that are
yeah,
back
and
on the world,
Hulk got murdered by Banner, and we don't even see it.
and then obviously Banner kills him again because he's Bruce, like
Yeah,
he's normal
like
Bruce in She-Hulk and at the end of Shang-Chi. So it's like, yeah, we got to talk about what the fuck Banner's doing to Hulk because it's not cool, man. It's
yeah.
not cool. Maybe in the She-Hulk series, Hulk just says, "You know what? I'm tired of being your fucking bitch. I'm coming out." Like I don't know.
Something's got to
Whatever.
give. It's weird. It's just
Yeah.
bizarre.
Actually, I was reading something the other day where they talked about how it wasn't structured for time, of course. It was a deleted scene where Hulk was going to come back in Infinity War, break out of the Hulkbuster and kind of help out, but he was going to be Banner Hulk, Smart Hulk, right? The MCU's version of Smart Hulk. But but there was also a theory that they were like, well, an angle where they had talked about having Hulk finally show up to fight Thanos, and unfortunately Thanos is too powerful because now he has all of the stones. But it just, I don't know, man. I like Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. I think they've given, because they don't technically own the individual rights to Hulk on film. I just don't think they give. I think he's just like a plot device for for people.
Which
He's
stinks
just a
because I
plot
really
device.
wanted a, like I have the Power Stone now or whatever, and then he's like, yeah, but you made Hulk mad, and then
Exactly.
yeah, like that kind of moment of the madder he gets, the
The stronger
stronger
he
he
gets.
gets,
Yeah,
which they
but
kind of teased in Incredible Hulk, like,
yep,
and then they never go anywhere with it.
yep. Now, what I did like was the what if kind of was able to take Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner and put him into the Incredible Hulk, film by in a different world, and that's cool. Like they did some pretty sneaky writing there, but I just wasn't a huge fan. I'll be honest with you, I just wasn't a huge fan of this show. The first couple episodes weren't bad. It's Doctor Strange Supreme, the evil character that they built with his own episode, I liked that. The ending, I won't tell you the ending of what happened in season one, but basically, I just thought it was random that Doctor Strange became such a pivotal character, in the last two episodes all of a sudden, after being gone for, half of the season. Captain Carter, I already know we're probably gonna get an animated Captain Carter series at some point. I mean, we're
Which
going to
sucks
have
because
to.
Agent Carter was right there.
I
Why'd you
know.
have to kill Agent Carter? Agent Carter was awesome,
It's a good show, man. It was a really good show.
and you murdered it.
Um, yeah. I mean, it's just I I don't want to be too critical of Feige, but I think he probably should have had a bit more control over all of the other TV shows because then they would have been canon if he had more control over the TV side, and I know he didn't because Jeff Loeb and he were like the co-directors, and then they fought over this stuff. And Loeb did most of the TV stuff.
Mhm.
But looking back, I really wish Feige would have been involved because Agents of Shield, Daredevil, all those shows would have been canon. I know Feige would have made them canon because it would make sense. And now that they're kind of soft rebooting characters to bring them into the MCU, like Daredevil, and actually the entire cast of Daredevil apparently is going to be in Hawkeye. I mean, not Hawkeye, but Echo. It just, I'm wondering where they're going with things. But this was a little frustrating for me. I was hoping it would expand more on the multiverse itself to get us ready for Doctor Strange, for Spider Man, and it really didn't do that. We talked about one universe at a time. Okay, that's fine, but at the very end, it's like, okay, now we're talking about the multiverse, and it's important, and we need to fix it really quick, and we only have 30 minutes to fix it, and
See,
I really
this
didn't
is
like that.
where Marvel's approach fails, where DC's worked,
Yep,
specifically when it comes to the Flash and what they did with the
yep,
Arrowverse. Sometimes you need that serialized, stay with the characters, moment to moment to really get it, right? Like having Flash deal with all these other characters and other universes and worlds, and then having that affect the broader rest of the universe in real time, not just in its
sure,
own little pocket on Disney Plus, but everything. Everything in the Arrowverse was affected by Flash season one,
yep,
right? Like it all mattered. They did Flashpoint in a very small way, but like it mattered across 5 shows, Crisis
yeah,
on Infinite Earths across 6 shows. Like it affected things beyond just the 30 minutes every Wednesday.
yeah,
Like that holds like wanting everything else to be connected, but this thing is just kind of its own. Hey, we're gonna show some cool shit. Hampers that showing the cool shit because they won't let it affect everything else. They
yeah,
kind of get a little too precious with their stuff, which I don't blame them. It's the biggest entertainment media, at least on that non-video game entertainment media that there is. So it's just weird that they decided this is, from what I'm gathering, at least having not watched it, that man, it's just nothing's gonna cross over. Nothing's probably ever gonna come of this again because
no,
they can't expect the audience to come into having watched this to go into Doctor Strange, right? Like, and then now, of course, this fall doing more multiverse shit, Spider Man, which sounds like they're already going to be building the building blocks of that anyway. So it really feels like this show was just unnecessary in a way most of their stuff thus far has not.
yeah,
And also, like, not just unnecessary, but just completely superfluous. Like, just, hey, we'll get Chris Hemsworth for this, but clearly a stand in for all these other characters.
sure,
You know? It almost felt like in the marketing, it was a here's the last hurrah for Chadwick Boseman. It's the last thing we got in the last bullet in the gun. We got to put this out in something. Like we can't let this sit. And they didn't have enough to make it all about him and that story as like an Elseworlds movie, which would have been dope. But they didn't. But it almost felt like they were fleshing out around that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it was released last week and I don't know if it was Feige or another Disney exec that said this, but I mean a Marvel exec, but they actually were going to create a T'Challa Star-Lord series.
Wouldn't
Like
surprise me because everyone said it
this
was
was going to
amazing.
yeah, they were going to they introduced him here in What If, but then like they're going to do a Captain Carter, obviously, at this point, because Captain Carter is popular right now. They were going to do a Star-Lord T'Challa series on its own in his own universe, but they were going to do that, and unfortunately he had passed away. But apparently he recorded audio for 2 seasons, so they already have season 2 mapped out. And
Yeah.
obviously, and he plays a big part in it again, whether it's whatever universe is. And like when we talk about this multiverse, it's an infinite number, so there's it's just infinite. There's so many different worlds with instances of adaptation of characters that we talk about, but when they pluck out these characters that are strictly from episodes we've seen, I for the casual viewer, it makes sense because you know who they are. Fine. But for them to do that and not pluck someone out of either the 616, which is the comic book world, or the 1999, which is the MCU, it just seems weird to me that they didn't do that, like to
Hmm.
tie it in. And you could have picked someone from the MCU that you didn't expect to be there, but you know who they are from one of those movies, whether it be Yellow Jacket or just something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Like
You don't have to pick one of the characters leading these movies going forward.
to like back to the Arrowverse point, they could have done a oh hey, out of nowhere, Flash is gonna be on Supergirl on a totally different network.
Yeah.
Like that was bonkers that they
Yep.
did that. Or that, hey, movie Flash is gonna be in TV Flash, right? Like bonkers. Like nobody saw that coming. Right. And it was just more like, fuck it, let's do it. That kind of energy about their
Sure.
multiverse story. Where it seems like Marvel's trying to emulate that kind of, hey, let's just see what's going to happen thing. But then they're at the top level being like, no, you can't see everything that's going to happen. Like, you can't
Yep.
do certain things, which is what WB used to do with their stuff. Which is, hey, you don't get Batman. You don't get Superman. You can't use the S word. No
Yep.
Wonder Woman. No flights, no tights. Like, that was their thing. And it almost seems like Marvel's kind of started to let that creep in to a certain degree in some properties, and very much like you said, they're going to do Captain Carter. They're going to do all those other things. It feels like to me, the crack is showing of like, oh, this is to seed future content, as
Yeah.
opposed to telling a cool story right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to have the legs, as
I
opposed
don't
to
think it will.
compared to what else they're doing with WandaVision. While it didn't end super great, part of that was probably due to COVID, with them having to restructure the finale. So and completely neutering what Falcon and Winter Soldier was again due to COVID. Their live action stuff on Disney Plus is dope. And they got
Yeah.
some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. Are you kidding me? It's gonna be amazing, right? Even Bad Batch, which was again, Bad Batch is a similar scenario where like it feels unnecessary, it feels weird, but it's still good.
It's
You know?
Filoni, you're like, sign me
Yeah,
up.
like
It's
it's
Filoni
still
Star Wars.
it's Filoni Star Wars. It's awesome, and it really is.
Yeah.
Like
There it
none of
is.
it really was necessary. Rebels gave us a kind of that pre rebellion, late Empire story. We really weren't clamoring for that right after the fall of the Republic
Yeah.
story, but we're getting it. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whereas what ifs, like nobody was really clamoring for a what if series. You know what I mean? Like no one like we got that Elseworld story on Arrowverse, which was just a crossover. Nobody was clamoring for a Monitor Elseworlds go across the multiverse story. It was
See,
cool when it happened.
so in the 80s, early 90s, there was that what
Plus,
if Marvel
DC's got the
comic.
movies that
Yeah.
they could do whatever they want because
They can
they
do
put the
whatever.
money in the animation.
Yeah. So with What If, it was a very popular comic in the 80s and 90s because it did do they took the concept, they just didn't execute it like the comics. And I
Yeah,
think the reason why is they focused, like you said, they were protecting their precious timeline. Let's call it that. The sacred timeline that Disney and Marvel have for the MCU, right? That's it's kind of ironic I'm saying that, but it's their precious timeline that they don't want affected. So let's do these things outside of it, which is fine. You get people, you try to explain things, but then when you don't tie it at all to your MCU, it just seems a little odd to me because at the end of it all, like, are they going to tie some? And more than likely, we're talking about it, but in Doctor Strange, we may see Strange Supreme show up at some
or we may
point,
see a random glance of like live action
Cap,
Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher, right?
or Captain Carter,
Yeah,
or Stupid Thor may do a cameo, like Drunk Thor, like Party Thor may show up. Like it could, one of those things could happen, but they're not going to be a main thing. And like you brought up the whole thing with Elseworlds and DC, in crossovers from TV networks and movies and all that stuff. There's rumors talking about how they're going to do a cameo scene with someone from the Fox, universe, right? The Fox Marvel universe to do a scene with them in Doctor Strange too. To me, it's like, well, if you do it there, and obviously there's the theory about Chris Evans, and I'm aboard with this. Chris Evans is probably going to play Dark Steve Rogers, but he may also show up as Johnny Storm from
yeah,
Fox's Fantastic Four because it would make sense to do that, right? To just show now that we own the property, we own the movies, those old movies, it's part of the multiverse. Okay, fine. Why can you do one of those callbacks in this show just to make it feel connected to
yeah.
the
They
MCU?
lean
Just
all the way in.
yeah, yeah. You
You
could,
know,
and it just, or you could have had Quake and Coulson do an episode from the universe that has whatever universe the Agents of Shield ended in. They show up,
hell
like
yeah.
it. It would have been fun to just, or even Peggy Carter meets Captain Carter.
right?
Peggy
Like that'd be
Carter,
dope.
like just done some stuff like that to just really feel like it's connected to all of it. It just felt so isolated. To me, it felt a little too isolated. So the casual moviegoer, I'm sure a lot of them were confused by it. They were confused. Like, they know about multiverses now because of all of the Warner Brothers, the DC stuff, and then the MCU stuff at the Endgame and all that stuff, and then WandaVision. We're starting to talk about the multiverse, and then Loki, of course. So I'm not calling the audience, the general moviegoer, dumb. But
I
what
just
I
also
think
like
is
it's not just dumb. They didn't need to explain to them anymore.
It didn't
Like
need to
we've
explain.
crossed that
Just like
Rubicon.
Spider-Man. We don't need to have Uncle Ben die another time. We
Yeah,
don't need
we
that
don't need
anymore.
the pearls exploding when Martha Wayne dies. Like
Yeah,
we've crossed that river enough times. People know what they're seeing.
exactly. So, but I thought that they should have had it connected in one way to the MCU, just
Yeah,
slightly. You don't have to have a major character be a part of this whole thing, but have someone that we've seen along the way in the MCU. Like I said, Coulson and Quake, because we know that Agents of Shield first started in the MCU and then it
yeah,
diverted
it
in
was
later season.
canon and it wasn't. And Clark Greg's
Yeah.
still popular. His Coulson's
Yep.
still popular. Everybody's ear perked up in Loki when they dropped his name.
Yep.
Every single MCU fan was like, "Oh, Coulson, whoa!" Right? Like everybody that's been a fan of the MCU perked up at that. Like
Yep.
there's that missing connection of just, and honestly, part of that is like just that willingness to just fucking go for it, right?
Yeah.
Like to live in it, to just let it all hang out there, and just revel in how crazy and awesome this shit is. That lately DC's been doing a better job of in terms of
Yeah.
capturing that kind of comic book craziness, like in all its glory, which is both good and bad. Like we're getting a fucking Peacemaker show. Are you kidding
Oh
me?
God.
And it looks good. Like that's the crazy part. It looks good, And I
Well,
want to
it doesn't hurt that it's on HBO Max where it's going to be R rated. It doesn't hurt
exactly. Like they're
Disney's like,
pushing that envelope a little quicker than I thought they would. But like no,
yeah,
they're realizing, oh yeah, we got HBO Max. We
yep.
should probably make some DC shows because
Like,
Watchmen was dope as fuck.
and Harley Quinn was a fucking popular cartoon,
Yeah.
even though it's like rated R. Like, hey, it's popular.
And again, very different, very distinct universes. Watchmen
Yep.
is, still technically same owned. Harley Quinn's same owned. You got like Superman and Batman the animated series and all the Justice League old school stuff is on HBO. Now you got Peacemaker, right? Like it's all different, but
Yeah.
all the same at all the same time, which is
So
crazy. But
it's
that's
starting to
comic
play out.
books.
It is, and it's starting to play out where we talked about if they bring back Daredevil, Jessica Jones, they have to be on Hulu because Disney's not going to put these rated R shows on
No.
Disney Plus unless they're PG. And what the fuck is the point of having a Jessica Jones or a Daredevil have it like continue their stories, but do it in a PG way that we're not used to from compared to
Yeah,
Netflix?
especially Jessica Jones, just because how
Yep.
heavy the stories can get.
Yep.
You can
They're very
get
deep.
away from the gore and the blood a little bit with Daredevil, because as long as you sell the action, which you
Yeah,
don't need blood to sell,
it's true.
you don't need it. It helps. Don't get me wrong. The visceral nature of how like fights happen, it helps. It's not 100% necessary, but you also kind of hamstring yourself because you don't want to push the envelope as much, which is what makes that show so great. Is they fucking went for it.
Yeah.
Their fight choreography was on point,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
it was amazing. I don't think you get that
But
with a PG-13 Disney Plus show.
you can't. So it's like, okay, so what are you going to do now if you're going to bring back but you could put him just like they're going to sneak in Deadpool into the MCU. You can have him in the MCU and still have your rated R
Yeah,
Deadpool
like
stuff, right?
how was Deadpool not in the What If show?
Come on,
What are you
like it's
doing? What are you doing? He'd have been the only character that would have been seen the Watcher and go, Jeff, right? Like everyone, it would have been an amazing moment, right? Like
like
he's just there.
well,
He's just there in his boxers, eating a chimichanga with the mask on, of course.
of course,
Hey Jeff, see you in the bod next week, right? Like
yeah,
that kind of moment.
yeah, and like the portal opens to take them to go fight Ultron, and he's like, "Is this going to take us to some place in the Old West? Like make a Westworld joke, like that it would be fucking like that's so
Yeah,
like
like it was there on the table.
Yes, it was. Now, like I didn't even really think about Deadpool, but when you brought that up, I'm like, fuck, how did I miss that? Like this would have been a great opportunity to put Deadpool into the
Yeah,
MC,
even
into
just a
just
little
Marvel.
tiny, just kind of give a little tease. Here's how
Yeah.
he's gonna be popping up around some just totally random shit. You're never gonna see him coming, and he's gonna have a few jokes, and then he's out the door.
Yep.
That's a perfect way to introduce Deadpool as he gets going in this universe. And again, part of me is just like, maybe Ryan Reynolds was busy. Maybe they asked. Maybe
Yeah.
that was on the table at one point, and then it's Free Guy got pushed too. So then all of a sudden he just couldn't do anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's one of those stories that maybe will come out in a couple of years of like, oh,
But
what
if
might
there's
have been,
but if there's one person I think has no problem jumping on a plane or going to a local studio,
or doing it
recording a
on his
bunch of
phone,
lines,
right?
doing a bunch
Like,
of yeah, like he could leave a voicemail and you could tie in a Deadpool voicemail onto,
hello,
you
this
know,
is
the
Wade Wilson, mercenary for hire, right? Like that kind
yeah.
of thing.
There's so many ways you could have done it, but yeah, I'm just a little frustrated that it wasn't tied directly into the MCU itself.
Yeah, even
You
just
know?
like in the tiniest of ways.
Nope.
Yeah,
So
like
yeah, a little disappointed on season two. I was going in very excited because nostalgia as a kid, of course. Captain Carter was a good episode. The Doctor Strange Supreme stuff wasn't bad, but then it just got really weird. Now the penultimate episode with Infinity Ultron was bad fucking ass. That was some kick ass shit. But the finale just kind of killed the momentum for me. Yeah, it
also
did.
when I saw the what if Hank Pym killed the Avengers, I'm like, okay, first off, the better storyline is what if the Punisher faces the Avengers, because that was a dope comic.
Yes,
That
that
was
was.
great. And then you
Yes.
get John Bernthal back. Come on, it'd have been
Yeah.
amazing. Like that would have been great. It'd have been so cool, like doing a Defenders, arc where like all the Defenders are there for like 2 scenes and they all die. Like a similar thing. I'm like, it'd been a cool nod, cool wink, and just leave it right there. They
Yeah.
left so much on the vine.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
did. They did. They did. They did. Who knows what's going to happen though? Because we were bitching, but come next year, this all could be easily resolved in Doctor Strange 2.
yeah,
It
who
could be,
knows? And
but
that's the fun
yeah,
of watching content. You never know.
yeah. But I will tell you though, wasn't a big like overall wasn't an awful show, but I wasn't a big fan of
Okay.
season one of What If.
I will temper my expectations then to watch it. But speaking of
Okay.
what's coming up, I got a few things on my docket here.
All
Next
right.
week, something returns. The Fandom, DC Fandom Part 2,
Oh yes, yes.
which means we're probably getting a Flashpoint trailer because
Hopeful.
they're, I think, out of production. So we're
Think
barely
so.
getting a tease, maybe not a full trailer. It's probably too soon for that, but an actual tease. Like I want to see Keaton in the costume. I want to see Affleck back in a suit, right? Like I want to see something. Maybe we see Reverse Flash, or Zoom or whoever it's gonna be as the villain. Like I want to see this. I want to get a sense of where they're going. Like maybe it's just a Flash runs back through time or something, and he pops into this universe, and all of a sudden he looks up, and it's Keaton in a suit and Batfleck in a suit, and they all look at each other and realize, oh, we're not in the right world anymore. That kind of thing. Like maybe it's a joke trailer. I don't know, but I want that, and I want another Batman trailer. The Batman.
The Batman. Yes.
God damn that trailer last year. Of course, if you're watching this, that was the first episode we did. Our pilot episode was on DC Fandom. Still
Mhm.
one of the greatest movie trailers I've ever seen.
Really? Okay.
Fuck yeah, that trailer hit so goddamn hard when he's just like, "Who the hell are you?" When the random goon, she's like, "Who the hell are you?" And he just rips him apart.
Oh, he
Five
just beats the shit out of
beats
him.
the
Yeah.
shit out of him, and you see the fear on
They're
everyone's
terrified.
face.
Yeah.
And then the hard cut to it's because it's Nirvana, but it's like a
Yeah.
slower, heavier bass version of the song. Then the hard cut to the Batmobile firing up with the jet firing off in the back. You're like, oh my god, goosebumps all up and down, man. It's so cool. I'm so excited for this movie.
I'm gonna say one of my favorite trailers ever was the first Avengers trailer with Nine Inch Nails in the background. That was just yeah.
Yeah. The
But
Man of Steel
I
trailer was, oh my god,
Man of
and then the
Steel,
movie, not as great.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
terrible, but nowhere near as epic as
Okay,
that trailer.
so we're talking about the Batman, the Flash. What else? Maybe even a sneak peek into the Green Lantern show that they're doing on HBO.
I
Maybe
think
be
that's
nice.
the thing. I believe. Speaking of the Flash, we're probably gonna get a Supergirl tease
Yep.
because she's also rumored to get a show, which that'd be cool if it's not Kara, which I think it's probably not because her
No.
show's still wrapping up. She's the more well known version of Supergirl, but having it be this like Supergirl from the future kind of booster golded a little bit with her character
Yeah.
of like she knows some things she shouldn't know would be an interesting take on the character, and a potential, that platonic friend for for like Flash. His Grant Gustin and Melissa Benoit's character, like their chemistry was phenomenal.
Yeah, they're
Trying to
great.
emulate that in some way for Flash, I think that serves the DCEU very very well going forward. And I'm hoping we probably get a Peacemaker trailer. Maybe we get a little tease for Harley Quinn. You know, because you got to imagine season 3's been in production, if not in the can, at this
Yeah,
point.
it's been very quiet on
As quick as
Harley
they turn season 2 around,
around. Yeah,
season 3 is probably done.
yeah, I agree.
So yeah, like that's what I'm looking forward to. Plus, there's probably gonna be some major surprises. You know, like maybe we get a final season for the Flash trailer or something. The show.
Or we're probably gonna get a teaser for Aquaman or
Yeah, we could get a
something.
season for
Yeah.
that. You
Oh,
know,
Black Adam. Black Adam.
yeah,
We
Black
have to
Adam.
get
I didn't even think
it's
about
it's
Black Adam.
it's done, so we have to get a trailer for Black Adam. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes, indeed. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. We're gonna be talking about that. Plus, by the time this next episode out, Dune. Oh,
Shazam!
Fury of the
Fury of the
Gods.
Gods. What am I? We're missing all of this stuff,
Right, like
man.
there's a lot
Holy
of cool
cow.
shit.
Yeah.
Much as we rag on WB, there's some cool shit coming out of down the pipe for the DC
Yeah.
universe. Whether it
Yeah.
be a canon story or not, they got some cool shit in the works. Like they're trying shit. Like they're
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're in the phase of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. But that's still really fun. You know? Like there's a no holds barred level fun to what they're trying that I really appreciate as like, you know, just a content guy. Like it's gonna be cool to see what happens. So I'm digging it. But
Yeah.
what else was I gonna say? I had
You were
something
talking
else.
about Dune. Dune. You said Dune's
Dune
coming
in
out.
2 weeks.
Yes. Cannot wait, man.
Yes.
You're going to a theater for that, though, aren't
Are
you?
you fucking kidding me? Yes.
Oh man, you know what though? I really think I may go dip into a theater during like on Friday morning because no one's gonna go watch this
Yeah,
one
like
on
an
on
11
a morning.
a.m. showtime. No
Yeah,
one's there. No
no
one's
one's there.
there. And honestly, wearing a mask for 2 hours or 3 hours, as long as this movie is, would bother me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it not be the most comfortable, but not uncomfortable. For me at least.
yeah. But I've been very excited for Denis Villeneuve's Dune for a long time.
I have one quibble I went and saw when I went and saw Bond. They keep showing this. The trailer that they're showing for Dune at this theater is the see the trailer for Dune trailer. Like, why are you showing the teaser for this movie?
Yeah,
The movie's out in 2 weeks. Why are we seeing the see the trailer only in theaters kind of trailer? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, movie theaters? Handle your shit.
get your shit right, man.
All right. Well, we're a little slightly over our usual runtime. We had a lot to talk about.
Yes,
I
we
actually
did.
had notes, people. We had a lot to talk
Multiple
about.
pages of notes.
Heck
Multiple
yeah.
pages.
That was episode number 27 here on twitch.tv/MrWartburg. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Leave a like, a comment if you have any other thoughts on like Bond or Ted Lasso Season 2, or what you thought of What If. Also, definitely subscribe if you're over on any audio feed. Hit that follow button or subscribe, whatever platform you're on, and leave a review if you can. Definitely everything helps out the algorithm every little bit. Any closing thoughts, Fusion?
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, we both said this. Get ready because November's got a few things coming out, but December is going to be hot and heavy with some great content, and I can't
Yeah.
wait. I can't wait.
My schedule, there's a couple weeks where we might have to go back to back weeks.
Yeah,
Like, there's a lot of
yeah.
shit.
December may be a busy month for us. We may have to just do a show every week because it's
Yeah.
just there's just so much to talk about, and we don't want to wait and have it all like pile up on us. We
Exactly.
don't want that to happen. Yeah.
So that'll be a good time. I cannot wait for us. There's so many things in the pipeline. I can't even name them all.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening or watching at this point. We're gonna go ahead and end the podcast here. So we'll see you in 2 weeks where we're gonna talk DC fandom and Dune. Bye bye.
Bye bye.